The Heroes and the Hidden by Kitty Cat on AO3. Episode 5. Chapter 5. I Want to Run Away. Izuku wakes up confused. Where is he? The walls are darker than at home. Is it the blood? The blood must be making it darker. So much blood. It's everywhere. On him, and the floor, and the walls, and the man in front of him. When did he get here? Izuku needs to leave. Leave before he hurts anyone. His mom. Where's his mom? He needs his mom. She'll tell him it was all a bad dream. Shh, shh, shh. The man says calmly, putting his hands in the air, showing he is friendly. He's so much bigger than Izuku. And his mom. Where's his mom? It's okay. The man says softer, Izuku barely hearing it. He can't hear. Is he losing more of his hearing? If he can't hear, he can't help. He needs to help. No, he needs to run. Hey, Izuku. Here, look at me. Izuku does. His eyes are blood. He's bleeding from his eyes. It's hitting the couch. Couch? Why are they on a couch? He's not home. Mom, he needs his mom. Where am I? Izuku choked out, shutting his eyes to stop seeing the blood. But it's everywhere, even with his eyes closed. The blood drips down his eyelids, blinding him. He needs to see. He needs to hear. He needs to run. The scent is so strong. His hands start to hurt. A hand grabs his suddenly, making him jump. The pain in his hands go away. Midoriya, stop scratching. Please. I need you to breathe. The man's calm voice said, distantly. Who is he? Where is he? Where is his mom? The villain... No. He wants his mom. He wants his mom. He just wants his mom. I know, kid. I know. I'll explain everything. I need you to calm down first. The boy says again. Further away. Calm down. He couldn't calm down. He needed to save his mom. He needed a hero. But no hero would help him. He was a monster. A monster. He had hurt his mom. His mom was dead. No, she wasn't. She was strong. Stronger than him. She was alive. It was all a bad dream. Talons. He had claws. He had a curse. His fingers hurt again. A cold wave runs down his spine from his neck, shocking him and stopping the pain in his hands. I need you to breathe, Midoriya. Izuku. He chokes out barely. This man was nice. He could call him Izuku. He had saved him. Or did he hurt him? Hurt. He had hurt her. The cold shock of the ice pack again grounds him. All right, Izuku. Breathe. The voice leads him through a breathing exercise slowly, getting louder, as Izuku tunes back in. There we go. It's said, finally, and a hand is placed on Izuku's hand again. He opens his eyes, and meets black eyes, not red. He takes a deep breath, staring at the man in front of him. The name is Detective Tsukauchi. You're at the Masatafu police station. He answers, before turning to the side and grabbing the hot cocoa beside him. He hands it to Izuku, who takes it with shaking hands. I figured you might be a bit cold. I like to keep my office freezing. He smiles at Izuku, who stares at him blankly. He didn't even notice the blanket over him until Tsukauchi said something. They sat in silence for a while as Izuku sips his hot chocolate, trying to choke it down. Eventually, he sets it down, only finishing a fourth of the mug. He sees the detective frown out of the corner of his eye. Did he do something wrong? He couldn't drink anymore. It was so much. He wasn't thirsty. Are you gonna arrest me? He asked slowly, looking at his hands. His talons were gone. What happened? Naomasa frowns. The kid is shaking and his fists are clenched tightly. He can only imagine what's going through his mind right now. Izuku, no. He said sternly. I would never arrest you, kid. Izuku turns towards him, his eyes wide in disbelief. But I'm a monster. The kid said, like it was a statement of fact, as real as anything else. True. Naomasa hated that feeling that rang through his body. His quirk couldn't lie, which meant this kid genuinely believed he was a monster. He wanted to cry for this kid, but held himself together. You are not a monster, Izuku. You are a victim. Naomasa reassures him. Whoever told you that was wrong. The kid shakes his head at that, but is silent. He changes the subject. There's a medic outside who can take you to get cleaned. Do you want to go now? Izuku stares up at him horrified. Are you coming? He asks, practically begging. Naomasa runs his hand through his hair. He has paperwork to do about this. So much paperwork. But he also has to call Toshinori and cross-reference the slime found to the sludge villain he said he was pursuing. By the way the kid stares at him, makes him feel bad to say no. Sure, kid, he murmurs, standing up slowly. Can you walk? He asks, turning towards Izuku. Can you carry me? He asks softly. Naomasa sighs, bending down as the kid wraps himself around him. Grabbing the blanket, he drapes it over the kid's back, holding him tight and walking out. The medic stares at him, but says nothing as they walk towards the showers. It's not much, but hopefully they could get the cake blood off the kid. Izuku stares at the water as it runs down the drain. It's bright red. He sees his mother on the floor. He sees the blood on his talons and the flesh sticking at the end. His hands are talons. The villain looks horrified at him. All Might calls him a monster. He's gonna hurt the detective. He's a monster. All Might wouldn't lie. Kachan wouldn't lie. He doesn't notice his breathing getting heavier, or his nails scraping across his arms until a hand touches his shoulders. It's heavy. Kachan, he's gonna burn him again. He jumps and crouches down away from the person, trying to minimize his size. Kachan can't hurt him. He needs to protect his mama. His fingers feel like they're on fire again. It hurts so much. Tsukauchi's hand hovered in midair as he looks at Izuku's new talons, connecting the dots. Oh, kid, he says quietly, his eyes welling with tears. The burns and scars that coated Izuku's small body made Naomasa flinch when he first saw them. They were everywhere. His small freckled body was covered. Even through the blood he could spot the raised skin and marks coating his back. He was only 8. Who would do this? The medic declared them not relevant to the case, though the newest one on his shoulder was flesh. It still had blisters bubbling on it. It must have been painful, but Izuku hadn't even so much as flinched when the medic touched it. His pain tolerance must be extremely high, especially for a kid his age. It makes Naomasa sick. This is why the law is important. Quirkless discrimination. The shoes that Izuku had been wearing were old. They were ripped and missing pieces. Naomasa wouldn't be surprised if his feet touched the hot pavement as he walked. But they were the quirkless shoes. Naomasa hated them. He gets so many brought into the station that it makes him ill. Kids like Izuku weren't allowed any other shoes. It was disgusting. But Naomasa couldn't do anything about that law. Now, the shoes were coated in thick blood. The white on the button was deep red, just like the rest. He had to help Izuku pull them off, because they were so caked onto his feet. He felt awful. But when the kid stared at him, with genuine fear in his eyes, and his fingernails grew instantly sharp, Naomasa started to cry. He understood why the kid was so shaken up. It wasn't a villain that had killed his mom. Izuku was quirkless. But some quirks are activated differently. He knows what happened to Inko Midoriya. Fucking Christ. I will say, psychologically speaking, Izuku's going through what I guess would be derealization. His body is taking him outside of the present. It is why he goes from knowing his mom is dead, right, to thinking she's alive, to forgetting what happened, to remembering what happened. His body is trying to see, his mind is trying to see if he can accept and comprehend and remember this horrific event, and is widely thinking, well shit, fuck, we need to figure something out because you can't remember, but you have to remember. See, this is what I would say, I think this has the PTSD tag, right? Because this is awfully giving PTSD, where like the body's trying to force him to remember. It would be too early to present. PTSD does not normally present this early on, if I'm being honest. PTSD presents around 3 weeks to a month after the event. Right? That is it almost always is never right after the event. I do not see PTSD in the tags. Okay. I thought I saw traumatized and oh, here it is. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. There you go. But as I said, do I think an actual person who knows so much about PTSD wrote this? No, probably not. But I will say it is similar because your mind will block you out. If I'm being honest, Izuku's 8 and he just saw something so fucking gruesome. If I'm being honest, the likelihood that his mind completely wipes what happened that night is very high. It's very high that he completely forgets everything that happened that day. That he does not remember who killed his mother. Specifically, who. That is what he won't remember, right? There could also be the possibility that he remembers vaguely what happens, but not fully. There's a bunch of things that could be what happens here and stuff like that. Again, as I said, it is all dependent on the mind, and people react differently, right? But as I said, what we're seeing here is Izuku's derealization. His body is trying to see how much Izuku can handle, and clearly Izuku cannot handle that much. He is being sent into multiple panic attacks. His brain is fundamentally changing as he is going through all of this. Fundamentally, in his mind, it is changing. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Izuku's going to latch onto Tsukauchi like there is no tomorrow, because Tsukauchi is giving him comfort in such a critical point in time. I have mentioned before in other podfics and credit notes, I believe I have. If I'm not, well then this is the first time I'm mentioning it, but parenting only really matters in critical moments. You could be doing absolutely everything right, but in a critical moment when everything's going to shit, in the sense of everything's high stakes, high adrenaline kind of situation, like kid drops a cup and drops glass. If you yell at them and you lash out because it was that one moment, that was like your critical point. You've never lashed out on that child before, but that little thing, that is what counts. Not everything you did right. Do not get me right. Everything you did right does help out the kid as well. But that critical moment and point in time is when it matters the most for you to keep your calm. Now keep this in mind. Critical moments like that are when children become more susceptible. They become more spongy, in the sense of this is when they learn the most. This is what sticks the most. This is what sticks the most. So think about it that way. Izuku is at one of his highest critical moments because it is high adrenaline, traumatic. Trauma often leaves real big impact on your brain, whether it is literally physical trauma or mental trauma. This is clearly mental trauma on Izuku, in part physical because of his quirk, but we're not going to talk about that logistics because I do not know what quirks would do for the psyche, but I think it would be fascinating to be in a quirked world and study psychology and seeing how quirk and the quirk gene really messes with the mind and how that messes with everything we know psychology to be. Oh, I am getting so, I will never be able to study that, but I want to study that. Okay, sorry. I'm shaking. I'm shaking from excitement. Okay, moving on. But, as I said, this is a really big critical moment for Izuku. He has quite literally gone through a horrific, traumatic event. And just like I've mentioned before in multiple other videos, people tend to trauma bond for a reason, right? Kids especially, right? But like, bigger kids too, teenagers, even adults. The reason being, traumatic events leave significant impact on your brain. They leave significant impact on your brain, including when you're a little kid, especially when you're a little kid, right? It's why trauma follows you everywhere you go, because trauma embed way faster than anything else. Trauma is a coding that gets coded into your brain, and it is really hard to uncode, right? Your brain codes it because you are supposed to remember. You are supposed to learn from that experience, so you do not have to go through that experience again. Again, this is why PTSD comes along, right? That is when the brain's function of stopping you from remembering and making you remember critically fails. And it is forcing you to remember over and over for you not to go through it again. And it becomes to a point where it is no longer considered healthy and it is a disorder. Moving on, as I was saying, Izuku's at a critical point, traumatic-wise, right? All his brain is being coded. And who is right there, calming him down, helping him, giving him comfort that he so desperately needs at such a critical moment? Tsukauchi. I'm just saying, Izuku's gonna most likely be very attached to his Tsukauchi, or he should. And for the most part, people understand that after a traumatic event, people attach to their savior or the person that they got saved from or stuff like that, or people around them. But I don't think people understand the explicit on why. I mean, you just went through a traumatic event. Your brain is literally being rewired as you speak when that traumatic event happens, right? You are quite literally going through a monumental moment. Izuku's going through a monumental moment, as I said. His brain, not only is it so monumental, he's getting PTSD, something that he will never be able to uncode. Because that is the danger of trauma sometimes. Because it's one thing if you get coded. It could get uncoded. It will take years of work. With PTSD, there is nothing you can do to uncode that. That is forever stuck with you, and you are forever going to have to live with that, because to this day, there is no quote-unquote cure. Because to the mind, we are protecting ourselves, and there needs to not be a cure. There does not need to be a rewiring or a recoding, because the mind really genuinely believes that they're doing something good. And so, after a traumatic event, what does the body crave? Normalcy. It craves comfort. So when it is in such a deprived state of comfort, not only is it deprived state of comfort where there is no comfort in sight and you desperately crave it because you are deprived of it at the moment, you're in a critical moment where your literal brain is being rewired. And not only that, Izuku's not only getting rewired on a regular base, like on a regular sense, rewired to a point where there is no undoing this rewiring. He will forever have PTSD. Add that to the fact that he's getting comforted by the one adult who not only knows his name, but has been treating him so nicely, has told him that he is not a monster. The only other person who has ever treated him in such a degree being his mother. What do you think is going to happen? Put that all together and you get the real reason why Izuku would cling on to Tsukauchi even after all this. Why Izuku would emotionally be attached to Tsukauchi. Now, would you all be able to fully digest all of that and know exactly all the terminologies and stuff like that? Like the whole rewiring thing, the whole PTSD being a whole, of what it is, how the mind being deprived of comfort means it craves comfort even more, and the little comfort it gets views it as a manifold, like it magnifies it. You could get small comfort and view that as the most best comfort you have ever received in your whole world. Think about it this way, like, have you ever cried, had a whole out crash out, and you have a hug, and that hug is the best hug you have ever had in your whole world? It's not. It's an average hug. But your mind is deprived of comfortability. Your mind is deprived of serotonin and dopamine. Your mind is deprived of those. And so when it receives those, after having such a really low point, of course, 5'5" would seem so tall. if you're 100 feet down the ground. If you're 10 feet down the ground. But if you're level foot, 5'5" is average. A hug, that was average. But when you're looking at it, when you're 10 feet under, 10 feet below the person, 10 feet in the ground because you feel like absolute crap, that's tall. That hug is the best hug in your whole fucking life. Because that's just what happens, psychologically speaking. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thank you for coming to Psychology Corner. I'm here all day and all night. Quite literally, my channel is up 24/7. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.